Hey guys, okay, live again. This is homeless cost of living. Um, the idea here is to gain an understanding about how much and why, um, you know, why it costs so much money. Where should we have the money put? Um, those types of things. So we got a little think on a calculator here. So um, let's start out with $15. All right. So let's say it costs $15 per meal for every human. Okay, you can get away with a little bit less. You can certainly spend a lot more. Um, and then let's multiply that by three. So 3 meals a day. That's 45. Now let's multiply that times 365. We could do 365 and a quarter, but we'll leave it here. So that is a cost of $16,425 per year. All right. Let's say your average rent cost is $800. That's times 12. So that's $9,600 a year. Let's do that first one again, but for the month, and just put in 30, just because. So now we're at 1350. So let's add 800. Now we're at 2150. When you add the cost of, a car, a few bills, utilities, things of that nature. We're in the neighborhood of 3,000, pretty easy a month, all right, for cost of living. So let's multiply that to 12, and then let's say that's our cost for 80 years on average. So now we're at 3 million bucks, right? Okay. Well, our plan is to use $100 million for a building, right? This building is going to be the shelter. It's going to be one location out of hopefully a couple in each country. And this is the total cost of the building. But this is running time for 100 years or a lifetime of a person, right? So let's divide, 100 million by 3 million, right? We're going to get 33. Okay. So as a rich person, I can give away $3 million. If I had 100 million, I can give away 3 million bucks to 33 people. Give or take, they'll make it, right? All right, so you've got cost a house that's $267,000 in America on average. Certainly not the top house, but average price. So the math here that I'm trying to show is that we have basically, let's say we have 100 people, right? That we can help with this shelter over 100 years, all right? So 100 people is 3 times as good as giving away the money. All right. So this is sort of thing, and we're gonna do hopefully a video on this. A TED Talk was given by somebody, and I'll do sort of a reaction video. I think, or something I'm planning out. Anyway, they're very smart, and they said, we would rather invest the money that you give us into making something that we think is worthwhile. So they use your money, your donations, to do something, right? So investment or business, and then those things create some money, and that's the money that they use. So it's there's an extra step involved there. But even at 3 times better than just giving the money away, we see that we're having some effectiveness. So um, let's say we're $5 a meal, okay, times maybe 50 people, right? And then that's times 2,000 locations, and that is 365 days a year. roughly your cost of just serving breakfast, right, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $182 million for one of the big charities. So that's quite a cost. Okay, that's more than double of our shelter costs. But of course, the shelter is going to have some food, so we've planned that in there. Now, right now, that's about the most effective number that there is, and that's just serving a meal. So, here we go, But anyway, so this shelter is going to have, food, rest, shower, storage, internet, living room area with TV to relax. They're going to have Wi-Fi, some internet to work with, a computer station, and some sort of clothing thing. So we'll work with, hopefully local charities and provide necessary clothes, of course, laundry as well. This is another cost, and then hopefully some work clothes as well. So we got a lot going on in there. But our numbers are still about $100 million per 100 years. And this can be covered for free with our plan of government that creates a pocket of about $5 billion uh, a year, and we're asking, or we'll be asking, for 1 year out of every 50 or 100 years. So that's enough money to really get us jump started and get us going. And then the other thing that's our lifeline is, because it's a work shelter, they have the ability, uh, but are covering their own cost. So, employee cost is a big deal. Let's just do the numbers on that real quick here. So let's say 30 grand a year. All right, it's a little above what most employees would get paid. Okay, in a standard job. And in some ways, honestly, it's a little bit less than the money that it really takes to get that work done. But let's say you have a full-time shelter, 24 hours a day, and you have, oops, sorry, you have 15 people. Right, that's $500,000, right? So when all is said and done, we were talking about the costs on the other video. We're basically times two, because it takes money to do all the different things for employment. There's certain, regulations and standards. The government has to oversee things. They have people that they pay to do that thing. So you're roughly $1 million, right? That's 15 people, okay, per location. And that certainly is enough, okay? That's enough for a good basic crew. It's not over. You could have many more. Um, but that's $1 million. So $1 million a year, that's what? That's $100 million, right? So that's why we have the work program, is because some of those funds are going to pay for these people to help out and to do the work there. So anyway, with $100 million, really just gets everything going, gets the land, gets the building, gets everything set up. We'll go into great detail at some point. Um, but it's going to be, ecocentric. So we'll have, solar and or wind. We'll use water collection, as it is legal and as we're able. Um, and we'll, certainly maybe getting some donations, but that takes work, It takes a person to answer the phone, to, maybe do a little negotiation. Perhaps a company is willing to, but they want some advertisement done. Well, if we're, nationwide or an international, we have a viewership, that can make that sort of thing worth it for them. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Anyway, so that's really nice. And again, like, $3 million is pretty good, but you're You're going to get more than one place to live from birth, until retirement. Um, Housing is certainly all over the place. Um, you need a vehicle, you need registration, you need clothing, you need insurances, all types of things. So, my cost of living is really closer to about $8 million a person for a lifetime. I feel that's pretty close. It's not too much. Um, but again, compared to $100 million, it's really not that much. So, yeah, let's just do the math real quick. 100 million, $8 million. So, with 100 million and 8 million, right? Assuming that for the people who are involved in the shelter, that our base is assuming their lifelong costs. That's 12 and a half people. That's not that very, it's not that many people. Um, but you can certainly have, over a lifetime, over 100 or several hundred years, you can have so many people go through there. You can have 1,000 people go through there. Um, Hopefully, we'll have a high capacity and have more than 100 plus at one time. Um, Several thousand, per country within a given year would be really great numbers. So we're working towards that. And there, your dollar is worth it. It's well spent. Um, anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, but let's call half of the 400 million in the United States. Let's call them working, and basically that's 50 cents a person, to get one started. We're looking for five in each country, um, and then they'll have a networked head, and that head would work with or be government, and then an additional like United Nations or something like that, an additional overseer, and that'll handle all the daily operations, per country issues, and then any real big things, any major catastrophes or something, something of that nature. So that's pretty fun. And the shelter provides a safety, um, and it's absorbing all the costs of life, right? So sure, I can go, sit outside of a Starbucks, but it's kind of hard to do that every day without, and be well received without spending some money. Now some have some give and take, and some allow that, but you can't have, you know, eight booths and tables inside of a Starbucks and have 50 homeless people outside the Starbucks, would deter from business or whatever. But anyway, we feel like those are pretty decent numbers to start, and something that you feel like that you can give to. And again, we don't, I hate being the guy who asks for donations. I want to see a value and I want to put a value in there. So 50 cents is really not a lot. That would cover one. Imagine 50 cents per year. You know, um, that's pretty easy. If we get 100 million for 50 cents in one year, after 5 years, we have a great initial cost, and then the operational costs should be minimal with the eco utility, and with donations and working out a few deals, right? In addition, the earnings that are created by the jobs and the work that is done by the people staying in there. So we feel that we balance that out pretty well. And anyway, let's see if there's something else to cover. That's mostly it. These people are coming from absolute zero. They have nothing. Um, they're lucky if they have a backpack that hasn't ripped and torn to carry their things. Um, there's certainly no nice and easy place to rest. There's no immediate place for them to go and get something. Um, they're building from scratch. They're starting from zero, and that's tough to do as an adult, and that's something we don't really think about either. All we remember is growing up with, most of us had mom and dad. They went to work, we went to school, and you know, to and from school, we had the clothing already, we had the school supplies, school was there. Don't forget that's a seat to sit in, during the daytime. Work is a seat to sit in during the daytime. Without that, unless you have the money, you're incurring a cost somehow. It's a charge. But beyond that, we turn 16 and we say, hey, driving driving is now here, and we certainly can go get a job to cover insurance and gas, as a 16-year-old. Um, and something that I didn't get as a kid, but I wish that I had was, I wish my parents would have sat down and said, look, this is how much money that we make per month, right? This is the cost of living. So this is how much it takes us. And I would have had those numbers in my head already, when I was ready. And the other, it's not a big deal. It's not Bible for sure, but an advice is, instead of spending money on this thing and that thing, it's really good. It's really important to, really to do bills first. All right. So, work to live is basically what we call it within the shelter. But work to live is important, and then what extras do you have? So count up all your money, right? I have this coming in, I have this coming out, and I have this extra, right? That's food, clothing, rent, etc. How much extra do you really have out of that extra money? You might spend a little bit of money on, one hobby, but it's certainly wise not to go and spend all of your free money extra month, that you have extra for the month, excuse me. And unfortunately, in this life, we have attained with the modern world, but we really don't have anything better than living paycheck to paycheck unless you're in like 50,000 and plus, as far as income. And one last thing, it's I think I should probably get a video in on this at some point, but um, so y when you make enough money to cover your bills, the world is completely different than not having enough, right? And just having enough and having above is also another world of difference. So, um, remember, if you're younger and you're learning and you're getting education, make sure that you look ahead and say, hey, these types of jobs are available, and I'm interested in these types of things. There is a lot of match up there, um, and it's a good way to steer the ship, so to speak. So anyway, thanks again for stopping by. We'll we'll see if we can't keep improving here on the videos and everything. I appreciate it. If you guys like what you're seeing, don't forget, subscribe, like, share, and let us know what you think. By making comments that can influence future videos, and we can go back and cover in-depth subjects that we only, briefly mentioned. Um, all just to kind of do this together and make this a nice experience. Okay, well, thanks. Thanks. Have a nice day.